Hey guys, what's going on and welcome back. I love the Dork Diaries series. There's, I think, like 14 books in the main series, including the book 3.5 and the book OMG. And then there's 3 spin-offs, so I'm pretty sure there's 19 total books in the Dork Diaries series. And the first book was really good, and I'm like 1/3 of the way through the second book. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, today I'll be reading Dork Diaries, Tales from a Not So Popular Party Girl, Part 2 of 3. In Part 1 and 3, we read we started the book to 93, and I believe now we're going to read pages 94 to 197, I think it's something like that. I'm not sure, though. I could be wrong. Subscribe, like, and turn on post notifications, because this is reading Tales from a Not So Popular Party Girl, Dork Diaries, Book 2, Part 2 of 3. Alright, let's get into it. OMG, what's that on your fruit? Ew. What? I looked down at it, expecting to see a bug or a hair or something stuck in the chocolate. That? Don't you see it? Gross, she exclaimed, pointing and frowning like she saw something slimy with 18 legs. I brought my plate up for a closer look. What? I don't see any, but before I could finish my sentence, Jessica slapped the bottom of my plate. Whack! As the plate went airborne, a few stray pieces of fruit landed in the chocolate fountain with a kerplunk, splashing chocolate on my face. However, the vast majority of the gooey mess landed on the front of my dress in chunks and stuck there. I froze and stared at it all in horror. My beautiful designer dress was totally ruined. Mackenzie and Jessica doubled over in laughter, and a half-dozen other CCP girls joined in. I'm so sorry, Nikki. It was totally an accident, Jessica sneered. OMG, Nikki, you should have seen the look on your face, Mackenzie shrieked. It looks like you were in a food fight and lost, Jessica snorted. The lump in my throat was so large I could barely breathe. Tears filled my eyes, and I tried to blink them away. I didn't want to give Mackenzie and Jessica the pleasure of seeing me cry. I grabbed some napkins and wiped my dress until all that remained was a large, faint brown stain. And suddenly it became very clear that the only reason Mackenzie... The lump in my throat was so large I could barely breathe. Tears filled my eyes, and I tried to blink them away. I didn't want to give Mackenzie and Jessica the pleasure of seeing me cry. I grabbed some napkins and wiped my dress until all that remained was a large, faint brown stain. It suddenly became very clear that the only reason Mackenzie had invited me to her party was to publicly humiliate me. And like an idiot, I had taken the bait. How could I have been so stupid? I didn't care about talking to Brandon anymore. I just wanted to go home. And Suddenly Mackenzie gasped and whipped out her lip gloss. OMG, Jess, isn't that the photographer from the Westchester Society page? I think it's time for a close-up. That's when I noticed that the fountain was vibrating and making a strange gurgling sound. I guess that the pieces of fruit that had dropped inside were clogging things up or something. What a beautiful fountain. Let's get a shot with the birthday girl and her best friend standing right beside it, the photographer guy said, as he dunked a huge strawberry into the chocolate and popped it into his mouth. Okay, I had a really bad feeling about their taking a photo for the Westchester Society page right next to that fountain. Mainly because it was making a low rumbling noise that sounded like a twist between a clogged up garbage disposal and a plugged up toilet. It was not a happy sound. I was out of there. Me. I admit that big smudge on my dress looks bad, but Mackenzie and Jessica looked like they had been mud wrestling in a vat of chocolate fudge and then tried to clean up by showering in chocolate syrup, which BTW made me feel a whole lot better. I wrapped my shawl over my dress and then hurried to the front desk in the lobby to call my parents. I decided not to tell Chloe and Zoe I was leaving. Me. They were still dancing with Jason and Ryan and seemed to be having a really great time. And if they were lucky and landed real dates for the Halloween dance, they wouldn't have to do that phony my date's a band member thing. I was standing outside the main door waiting for my parents and trying to ignore a really bad headache when I heard a familiar voice. Hey, are you leaving already? It was Brandon. Just great. I adjusted my shawl to make sure that stain wasn't showing and just stared straight ahead. Yeah, I am. Actually, I don't even know why I came. I'm out of here, too. I just needed shots for the newspaper. That's nice, I guess, I said, trying to muster a smile. Our eyes met, but I quickly looked away. We both just stood there not saying anything. I kept fiddling with my shawl, but out of the corner of my eye, I could see him staring at me. Are you okay? Yep, just super tired. I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, here's my dad. See ya. I rushed to the curb to meet the car as it pulled into the U-shaped driveway. Hey, wait a minute, Nikki. Without looking back, I opened the car door and collapsed into the back seat. I was exhausted, angry, humiliated, and confused. And to make matters worse, I think I was having my first migraine. More than anything, I just didn't have the energy to chit-chat with Brandon right then. As my dad pulled away, I peeked into the rearview mirror. Under the glare of the streetlight, I could see him just standing there in the middle of the street, with his hands in his pockets and a hurt look on his face. I suddenly felt like the most cruel and heartless person in the world. I buried my head in my shawl and had a really good cry right there in the back seat. Why was I acting so crazy? Why was everything so confusing? Why was I hurting a person I really cared about? It was just another dreadful day in the pathetic life of a not-so-popular party girl. Sunday, October 20th. When I woke up this morning, I was in a decent mood for about 30 seconds. Then all the horrible memories from Mackenzie's party came flooding into my brain like a massive tidal wave. I just wanted to crawl deep under the covers and hide there for the rest of the school year. Do not disturb me. Now I'm feeling hopelessly depressed. I checked my answering machine then and was not that surprised to see Chloe and Zoe had each left me like a dozen messages. But I decided not to call them back. The last thing I felt like doing was blabbing on the phone for 3 hours about how Mackenzie and Jessica had tortured me and destroyed my dress. Although I can't blame Chloe and Zoe for being super mad at me for just disappearing into thin air like that. I wanted to get the heck out of there as fast as possible. I guess I completely bugged out. Anyway, around noon, my mom came bouncing up the stairs to tell me that lunch was ready. Then out of the blue, she smiled really big and said, "Guess what, honey? I have a little surprise for you. Do not disturb me." Me trying to guess what's in the box. This side up. And no, I didn't think she had finally gotten me a cell phone, even though I've been wanting one like forever. Apparently, Dad was sorting through stuff in the attic when he discovered a box of Mom's old costumes from her Shakespeare theater days back in college. When she showed me her Juliet costume, I was like, wow. The dress was made of the most beautiful plush purple velvet and had a gold embroidered trim along the sleeves and skirt. It came with a curly wig and a fancy eye mask decorated with purple beads, ribbons, and feathers. The outfit looked like something a real princess might wear, and it was in great condition even after being in storage all those years. Because the dress had a lace up front, Mom thought it would fit me perfectly. She said I was welcome to use it for the Halloween dance. Me trying to guess what's in the box. This side up. I thanked her and told her it was the best costume ever, but when she begged me to try it on, I kind of stammered and came up with the excuse that I had to study for a big test. I promised her I would try it on after dinner, which BTW is a lie. I absolutely love the costume, but I had no intention of wearing it, ever. After last night's disaster, just the thought of attending another party actually made me want to vomit. I guess I'm still traumatized or something. At this point, I plan to skip the Halloween dance and just help out at Brianna's ballet party. I've already spent the money I was paid, so I'm pretty much stuck doing that one. But I'm not going to stress out about it. I mean, what could possibly go wrong at a party for a bunch of 6-year-olds? I'll be spending the rest of Halloween night sitting on my bed in my pajamas, staring at the wall and sulking, which for some reason it always makes me feel better. I just hope Chloe and Zoe don't get mad at me and decide they don't want to hang out with me anymore. Having friends is so complicated, which BTW reminds me that I am not looking forward to seeing Brandon in my biology class tomorrow. That look on his face just keeps haunting me. I feel really awful about acting the way I did, but I couldn't help it. I'm pretty sure by now he hates my guts. If I was him, I definitely would. Monday, October 21st. All day, Mackenzie and Jessica have been giving me the evil eye and whispering about me. I'm so sick of them, I could just scream. Apparently, they're mad at me for that whole chocolate fountain fiasco. And Mackenzie spreading the rumor that I only came to her party to try to humiliate her, so Brandon would want to take her to the dance. This whole thing was their fault. If Jessica hadn't smacked my plate like that, those little pieces of fruit wouldn't have fallen into the fountain and made it malfunction. I can't stand Mackenzie, but I never try to mess up her birthday party. I mean, how immature would that be? Even though I hadn't seen Chloe and Zoe since the party, they must have heard all the gossip. I wasn't surprised to see they left a note in my locker. "Nikki, what's going on? We really need to talk. Meet us in the janitor's closet during lunch. Chloe plus Zoe." I had no choice but to come clean and give them all the nitty-gritty details. About what had happened and why I left the party early. Only I didn't mention the part about Brandon since I was still confused about all that. I was totally surprised when Chloe and Zoe got super angry. Not at me, but at Mackenzie and Jessica. They said they suspected something bad had happened. They said They said they suspected something bad had happened to me after I left so suddenly without telling them. They hugged me and said they were really sorry I had to go through all that alone. Of course, that just made me cry. So Chloe, Zoe, and I had a really good group cry. It was Chloe's idea that the three of us resign from the cleanup crew, and Zoe totally agreed. That they said we were not going to tolerate Mackenzie and Jessica's bullying any longer. I couldn't believe my ears. I knew Chloe and Zoe had their hearts set on attending the dance of the cleanup crew and doing that phony my dates and band member thing. Unless, of course, Jason or Ryan asked them to go, which they haven't yet. But they said it was no biggie, and even though the three of us wouldn't be going to the Halloween dance this year, there was always next year. I cannot believe that my wonderful BFFs would make such a huge sacrifice just for me. I got this huge lump in my throat and I wanted to cry all over again. Zoe composed a letter stating that we were resigning from the cleanup crew, and the three of us signed it. Then we gave the letter to Jessica, since Mackenzie had appointed her as her personal secretary for all official Halloween dance committee correspondence. At first, Jessica just stared at us really mean. Then she snatched the letter right out of my hand. It's about time you wrote Mackenzie an apology letter. The poor girl was traumatized. Now let's just hope she accepts it. If I was her, I sure wouldn't. I couldn't believe Jessica actually said that. When Mackenzie opens our letter, she'll be in for a little surprise. And of course, she'll probably have a big hissy fit and create a lot of drama. I'm going to need years of intensive therapy just to recover from having a locker next to that girl. BTW, today in biology, Brandon barely said hi and then ignored me the entire hour. I'm guessing that he's mad at me too. It sometimes feels like the entire world is mad at me. Whatever. Tuesday, October 22nd. Tuesday, October 22nd. Today, we started the gymnastics section in gym class. I think I might actually be allergic to gymnastics because whenever I get within 10 feet of a piece of equipment, I break out in a rash. Our gym teacher placed Chloe and Zoe in the intermediate group because they were both pretty good. But I got stuck in the beginner group because she said I needed a lot of work on fundamental skills. The first fundamental skill she requested that I master was not falling off. Surprisingly, I caught on really fast. And with courage and discipline, I had the potential of earning a perfect score of 10, just like those girls on the Olympic gymnastics team. Me on the balance beam, not falling off. Me on the uneven bars, not falling off. Me on the vault, not falling off. Ah! My gym teacher said she was really proud of the progress I had made in class today and gave me a B+. I now have a renewed respect for gymnasts, especially those who have completely mastered not falling off. Since Mackenzie is in our gym class, I was not that surprised when she came over and told Chloe, Zoe, and me that she was having another emergency meeting today. She said it was to approve the resignations of some committee members and that attendance was mandatory. We were happy and relieved she had agreed to let us quit, so we skipped lunch again and went to the auditorium. Mackenzie opened the meeting by saying that all resignations had to be approved by her, and that until that happened, Chloe, Zoe, and I were still official members of the cleanup crew. Then things started to get really weird. She became very emotional and said, due to a recent incident in my life, caused by a person who shall remain nameless, I can no longer serve as chairperson of the dance, and I tender my resignation. However, I'll continue to support the dance by attending if it actually occurs. Then, as if on cue, all the setup committee members resigned. Then the food committee members. Then the entertainment, publicity, and decoration committees. Mackenzie smiled really big and said, as chairperson, I officially approve all the resignations, including my own. All ex-committee members are now free to leave. The other cleanup crew members and I just sat there in shock as every last person got up and walked out, except Mackenzie. OMG, it looks like I totally forgot to vote on your resignations, which BTW means you five are now the Halloween dance committee. If you decide to have it, you better get busy because you have a ton of work to do. And if you decide to cancel it, make sure you notify Principal Winston and the student. Council. Although I wouldn't want to be the one to disappoint the entire school like that. Good luck, losers. I just sighed and rolled my eyes at her. Mackenzie, you are such a drama queen. You can't just resign like this and walk out. Oh yeah, watch me. Then she cackled like a witch and sashayed out of the auditorium. I just hate it when Mackenzie sashays. By 6 hours, the entire school was gossiping about how Mackenzie and the other committee members had resigned. Everyone was saying that Halloween dance was going to be either canceled or a complete disaster. Why? Because no one believed that the cleanup crew, Chloe, Zoe, me, Violet, and Theodore, the biggest dorks in the entire school, could pull off the biggest social event of the semester. And they were absolutely right. No dorks allowed. Wednesday, October 23rd. I spent the entire night tossing and turning and barely got any sleep. I also had the most horrible nightmare. I was at the Halloween party dancing in a chocolate bar. I was at the Halloween party dancing in a chocolate bar costume, and for some reason I couldn't feel my toes, feet, or legs. Suddenly I realized in horror that my body was melting into a pool of warm, gooey chocolate. And even though I was desperately screaming, and even though I was desperately screaming for help, everyone at the dance just laughed and started dipping pieces of fruit into my melted body parts. Talk about traumatizing. Boy, was I ever relieved when I realized it was all just a silly nightmare. Ha ha ha. Heh heh heh. Yummy. This morning, the members of the cleanup crew had an emergency meeting in the library about the Halloween dance. Only it really was an emergency because we had to decide whether or not to cancel it. I was in the library writing in my diary and waiting for the others to arrive when Brandon walked in. I was surprised to see him, especially since it seemed like he'd been avoiding me the past few days. Brandon placed a stack of books on the front desk and kind of hesitated, like he was a little nervous or something. Then finally he walked up to me. So, how's the Halloween dance coming? It's not. Haven't you heard? Mackenzie quit and took practically all the committee members with her. There's still you and a few others, right? Unfortunately, we'll be having a meeting in the next 10 minutes to officially cancel it. I said, glancing at the clock. I'm just waiting for everyone to arrive. Brandon folded his arms and sighed. That's too bad. I was looking forward to going. I had to admit he did look a little disappointed, and for some reason that bothered me. Well, I'm sure you and Mackenzie can find something else to do. Halloween night. Maybe you guys can go trick-or-treating? I threw my head back and did a fake little laugh to try to hide my snarkiness. Mackenzie? Who said I was taking Mackenzie? Everybody. Oh, well, I guess everybody's wrong then, Brandon said with a shrug. I stared at him in disbelief. OMG, did he just say he wasn't going with Mackenzie? What? How could he not be going with Mackenzie? Well, somebody needs to tell her that. She already has your costumes picked out. Brandon glanced out the library window like our conversation was boring him out of his skull. I did. She asked me to take her and I said no. You told Mackenzie no, I said, trying not to act surprised. How could he say no to Mackenzie? Why would he say no to Mackenzie? No one ever says no to Mackenzie. She said she just canceled the whole thing. Brandon said, looking really annoyed. Okay, wait a minute. Are you serious? Mackenzie said she'd cancel the dance in the entire school unless you agreed to be her date? Something like that. How could she? That's just totally crazy. Yeah, she set you guys up. I tried to wrap my head around everything I just heard. Okay, so Mackenzie resigns, and when the dance gets canceled, nobody ever finds out she lied about you taking her. And in the end, the entire school gets mad at us and not her. Unbelievable. If you cancel the dance, she wins, Brandon said, matter-of-factly. Wow, this is just so... Wow, I don't know how we'd ever pull it off. Brandon grinned and winked at me. You'll figure it out. I'm afraid Mackenzie's met her match. Listen, bud, have you seen the cleanup crew? Actually, you should be afraid. Be very afraid. We both laughed really hard at my silly little joke. It was kind of strange, but talking to Brandon not only gave me a whole new perspective on things, it made me feel a lot better. Soon we were talking about school and stuff. That went really well until he smiled at me kind of shy-like and stared right into my eyes. Of course, I started blushing like crazy. Then it got so quiet we could hear the library clock ticking. I think he felt a little embarrassed too because he bit his lip and started drumming his fingers on the magazine shelf. Suddenly he slapped his forehead and gave me this really goofy but cute look. I almost forgot what I came in here for. Yeah, me too. I trudged over to the front desk and grabbed his pile of library books to process them back into the system. It looks like none of these are overdue, so are you returning? Brandon didn't give me a chance to finish. No, actually. I came in here to ask if you'd go to the dance with me. My mouth dropped open and I just stared at him. I could not believe my ears. Wait, did I hear you correctly? You just asked me if... Yeah, I did. Oh, well, okay, sure, I guess, I stammered, blushing more than ever, if there is a dance. I was trying to act nonchalant about the whole thing, but inside my head, I was like, yes! Cool, Brandon said, nodding his head and looking a little relieved. Very cool. And let me know if I can help you guys out. Sure, thanks, for asking me. I was smiling from ear to ear and couldn't stop. Hey, no prob. Well, I better get going. See you in bio. Still a bit dazed, I watched him walk to the door and disappear into the hall. Finally, Brandon had asked me to the Halloween dance. I was so happy I started doing my Snoopy happy dance. La la la, I'm la la la, so la 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 happy. Soon, Chloe, Zoe, Violet, and Theo arrived, and we began our meeting. When I told them about Mackenzie and why she had bailed on the school dance, they could hardly believe it. Who would have thunk that girl could be so selfish, devious, and manipulative? Talk about evil. Mackenzie makes the Wicked Witch of the West look like Dora the Explorer. I'm just saying, by the end of the meeting, we all had agreed upon two things. First, we were not going to let Mackenzie get away with her dirty little scheme. And second, the students of WCD were going to have the best Halloween dance ever. Courtesy of the cleanup crew. The only thing that bothered me was that I was going to be a little busier than I had anticipated. I was supposed to be 1. Helping out at the ballet class Halloween party, 2. Working on the dance committee, 3. Doing that my dates a band member thingy with Chloe and Zoe, and 4. Hanging out with Brandon as his official date to the dance, all at the same time. I've gone from socially challenged to socially chick in just one day. But I was pretty sure all the scheduling conflicts would simply work themselves out in the end. I mean, look at those Hollywood party girls. Aren't they at every party in every city at the same time, all while hanging out with their BFFs and boyfriends? If they can do it, how hard can it be? And everyone knows that those celebutants have a combined IQ lower than an ortho retainer. The good news is that my days of being a not-so-popular party girl are finally over! Thursday, October 24th. Mrs. Peach has agreed to let us meet in the library every morning to plan the Halloween dance. She is such a sweetheart. We had a vote and I got elected chairperson, which also means it will be entirely my fault if the whole thing flops. Violet is in charge of entertainment, Zoe's in charge of setup, Chloe is in charge of decorations, Theo's in charge of cleanup. Everyone wanted me to do publicity so I could make some really cool posters. However, we still needed someone to be in charge of food, and about 24 more people to help. That's when I came up with the brilliant idea to place a new sign-up sheet on the bulletin board right outside the office to try to recruit more volunteers. Some of the jocks and CCPs are so immature. We don't need your help. Halloween Dance Committee sign-up. Elvis Presley. Donald Duck. Harry Pitts. Haha. Bug Girl. I'll bring my bugs. Ooh, losers. Just cancel it already. The good news is that we got one new volunteer, Jenny Chen. I suggested that everyone ask a friend or two to help out since we are super desperate for people. Brandon stopped by again to take our official Halloween Dance Committee picture for the yearbook. So I guess that means we're official. After our meeting was over, I planned to surprise Chloe and Zoe with the exciting news that Brandon asked me to the dance. I had been dying to tell them since yesterday, but I was waiting for the perfect moment. I was all set to break the news when we saw their crushes, Jason and Ryan, in the library, flirting with two CCP girls. If Chloe and Zoe had been wondering if those two guys were going to ask me to the dance, they definitely got an answer. A big fat no. I couldn't believe that Jason and Ryan asked two cheerleaders, Sasha and Taylor, to the dance right in front of Chloe and Zoe like that. Well, maybe not exactly in front of them, since the three of us were kind of spying on them through the bookshelves. But still, it was suddenly very obvious to me that the 2 hours Jason and Ryan had spent dancing with Chloe and Zoe at Mackenzie's party meant nothing at all. Those guys had tossed them away like two used pieces of Kleenex and asked CCP girls to the dance. Chloe and Zoe were heartbroken, but they said having a supportive BFF like me made it a lot easier to deal with the emotional wretchedness of their failed romances. After that, there was no way I could bring myself to tell them about Brandon and me going to the dance together. I felt so sorry for them, but I've also got my own problems to worry about. I've been so obsessed with the Halloween dance that I totally forgot we were having a geometry test today. The teacher gave us a complicated problem, and we had exactly 45 minutes to find X, Y, and Z. At first, I just stared at the page and started to panic. Then I realized I was making my problem way more complicated than it really was. I must have turned into a math genius or something, because suddenly it was like I totally understood what I was supposed to do. I ended up completing the test in no time at all. Then I took a short nap while the other slowpokes tried to finish before the time was up. When everyone was finally done, the teacher collected our tests, graded them, and handed them back to us. I took one look at mine and was absolutely conbafflated, which BTW means confused, baffled, and frustrated. Gulp. Geometry test, chapter 7 to 4th hour. Name, Nikki Maxwell. F. Please see me after class. Mrs. S. Using the exterior angle theorem, find X, Y, and Z. Here's X, X. Here's Z, Z. Here's Y, Y, A, B, C. I hate trick questions. That's when I totally lost and yelled at my teacher. Excuse me, but what's... That's when I totally lost and yelled at my teacher, excuse me, but what's with all the red ink? It looks like you had a really bad nosebleed and used my geometry test as a tissue or something. But I just said that inside my head so nobody else heard it but me. Although I have to admit my geometry teacher wasn't the first person to criticize my math skills. Last year I signed up to be a math tutor for the 6th graders. I was really happy because it paid a whopping $10 per hour. And if I put in if I put in 100,000 hours of tutoring by the end of the school year, I could make enough money to actually become a millionaire. With that kind of cash, I could buy vital personal necessities like an iPhone, a designer wardrobe, extra art supplies, and a private helicopter to fly me to and from school every day. I mean, like, how cool would it be if I actually owned a helicopter? Chloe, Zoe, and I would have the best carpool in the entire school. Me picking up Chloe and Zoe for school. Me dropping off Chloe and Zoe after school. And Mackenzie and the rest of the CCPs would be super jealous of us. Anyway, my first week as a math tutor went really well. I was going to love my exciting new life as a self-made millionaire. Me making a ton of money. SS. Unfortunately, when everyone got their math homework back, the complaints started to pour in. I felt really horrible about the whole thing. So I tried to say something really positive that would help rebuild their shattered self-esteem. Well, let's look at the bright side. F also stands for fantastic, fabulous, fashionable, and unfriendly. Me. F. But I don't think my positive outlook on the situation made anyone feel any better. So I resigned from my tutoring position and refunded all the money I had been paid. Mainly because it was the right thing to do. Plus, I'm very allergic to angry mobs. OMG, I had such a severe reaction, I thought I was going to have to call an ambulance or something. Achoo, achoo, achoo! SS. Thank goodness my geometry teacher drops our lowest test score before she calculates our final math grade for the semester. But still, if my parents find out I just failed my geometry test, they're going to kill me. Friday, October 25th. Ugh! I'm so furious with Mackenzie Hollister, I could literally just spit. Grrr! Not only did she totally ruin the chances of the school having a dance by quitting at the last minute, but she made sure everything was left in total chaos. I had no idea the situation was so bad, so I asked each committee member to present a status report at our meeting this morning. Zoe went first. She said Mackenzie had arranged with the parents of some of the CCPs to cover the expense of having a dance at the same country club as her birthday party. However, when Zoe called to find out the setup time, she was told that our reservation for the dance had been canceled by the previous chairperson. Since the CCPs were no longer involved with the dance, their parents were no longer paying for it to be held at the country club, which meant we didn't have a location for the dance. That's when I suggested that Zoe ask Principal Winston about using the gym or the cafeteria. But Zoe said she had already checked. The cafeteria wasn't available because the Junior League was having a UNICEF fundraiser, and the gym wasn't available because the floor was scheduled to be refinished for basketball season. Basically, we don't have a place for the dance, and we don't have any money to pay for a place for the dance. That's the end of my report. Any questions, Zoe said, and collapsed into her seat. Nobody had any questions, which BTW was a good thing, because Zoe was not in a very good mood right then. I thank Zoe for sharing her very thorough and informative report. Violet's report for the entertainment committee was next. She said the band for the dance had also been canceled by the previous chairperson. The band was no longer available, but their manager was giving us a full refund in 10 days. So far, I haven't found any bands that are available next week or willing to work for free, which means we don't have any music for the dance. I thank Violet for sharing her very thorough and informative report. It was the same story with decorations and food. Chloe said that the order for Halloween decorations had been canceled, and Jenny said the caterer had been canceled, and both Chloe and Jenny were expecting refunds after the dance. Theo added that if there was a dance, he was definitely willing to clean up after it. I had my entire reputation on the line as chairperson of the Halloween dance, but thanks to Mackenzie, we had no location, no band, no decorations, and no food! And to ensure that the dance was a total flop, she had arranged it so we wouldn't have a single dime to pay for a location, a band, decorations, or food. We took a vote, and it was a unanimous decision. The Halloween dance was officially canceled. It got really sad and quiet in the room, and I felt like crying. And even though all of this wasn't our fault, I couldn't help but feel like we had let down the entire school. The worst part was that I was the one stuck with announcing the bad news to the student body, which I decided to put off until Monday. Very soon, the black slime mold in the locker room shower was going to be more popular than me. Go away! Ew, loser, you stink! After school, my dad told me to take care of the leaves in the backyard. I was supposed to rake, and Brianna was supposed to put them in plastic trash bags. I hate having to do chores with Brianna. Go away! Ew, loser, you stink! It took me hours to get those leaves into a big pile, and Brianna was no help whatsoever. No! Me! Thanks to Brianna, I ended up with leaves, twigs, and other crud crud stuck in my hair. I actually looked like I had a new afro hairstyle or something. I was so mad I wanted to stuff her inside a trash bag and set her out on the curb to be hauled away with the leaves. Hey, who turned off the lights? Brianna. But of course, you can't do that kind of stuff to your little sister or brother, even when they really deserve it. Plus, it probably won't go over that well with your parents. Why was I not born an only child? Saturday, October 26th. I have a terrible headache, and I've been feeling super depressed all day. I've pretty much given up on the Halloween dance. Short of a major miracle, it's not going to happen. Plus, I have more important things to worry about. Like, for example, my nutty sister, Brianna. Her fairy phobia seemed to be growing worse. But I think Mom and Dad should seriously consider getting her into some type of counseling or therapy. Every single night for the past week, Brianna has woken me up to go to the bathroom with her because she's afraid. The fact that she was waking me up in the middle of the night wasn't the thing that was really bothering me. It was how she was waking me up that was driving me nuts. Ah! I consider myself very lucky that Brianna hadn't poked my eye out yet. So I did what any perfectly normal sleep-deprived raving maniac would do in my situation. I promised Brianna I'd get rid of the tooth fairy so she could start going to the bathroom by herself. Then I could start sleeping nights again. So in the wee hours of the morning, Brianna and I snuck downstairs to the kitchen so we could make up a special spray that would keep the tooth fairy away. Nikki's homemade fairy repellent. 1 cup bottled spring water. 3/4 cup vinegar. 1/2 cup strained tuna fish oil. 1/2 cup strained sardine oil. 1 teaspoon ground garlic. 1 teaspoon onion powder. Ah! Pour ingredients into a bottle and shake vigorously for 1 minute or until mixed. For best results, spray liberally in areas where fairy is not wanted. Will repel fairies and most flying insects for 23 years. Excess can be refrigerated and stored for up to 7 days for use as a zesty vinaigrette salad dressing. Okay, I admit I just made up the recipe right there on the spot to trick Brianna into believing the fairy repellent would actually work. I poured the liquid into an empty spray bottle and it actually looked pretty real. The only small problem was that the spray smelled a lot like a dead walrus. Like a dead walrus. On a hot summer day in Phoenix, Arizona. Fairy repellent. Brianna was nervous about the whole thing, was afraid the fairy might get mad at us if I sprayed her. Kind of like that time Dad sprayed those hornet wasps when they chased him around the yard for 5 minutes until he hid behind some garbage cans. It was my brilliant idea for me to wear protective gear. I didn't have a choice but to play along to get Brianna to believe that fairy spray would actually work. After rummaging through her toy box, Brianna handed me her blue plastic diving mask with a snorkel attached. She said it would help keep the spray out of my eyes and prevent the fairy from gouging them out if she got, really violent. Although, to be honest, I was more worried about Brianna gouging on my eyes than some fairy repellent. Then Brianna gave me her toy tennis racket with a busted string to use as a fairy swatter, my tooth fairy extermination equipment. Unfortunately, as soon as I put on the face mask, it started to fog up, and I was having a hard time breathing through that snorkel. I felt like the Sprayernator. Hasta la vista, fairy! I sprayed Brianna's bed, desk, lamp, and chair with the fairy repellent. Then I sprayed behind her curtains and inside her toy box. I was just about to call it a night when Brianna started pulling stuff out from under her bed so I could spray under there. Then she began tossing junk out of her closet so I could spray in there too. And she insisted that I spray her Hello Kitty backpack, Barbie CD player, and Tickle Me Elmo doll just to be safe. I tried to convince Brianna that she had absolutely nothing to worry about, because if the tooth fairy was in fact hanging around her room, she was probably totally dripping in stink by now. That poor fairy was going to have to rush back to Fairyland and soak in a tub of Mr. Bubbles, tomato juice, and Lysol disinfectant for at least a week. Stink fumes. OMG, what is this stinky stuff? It smells like a dead walrus. I'm out of here, tooth fairy. Stink fumes. But Brianna started whining really loud and said we needed to spray her sock and underwear drawer. I was like, shh, you better quiet down before you wake up Mom and Dad, or we'll both be in big trouble. Soon the spray bottle started making gurgling sounds because it was empty. I was trying to get out the last few drops when suddenly the doorknob clicked and I was trying to get out the last few drops when suddenly the doorknob clicked and the bedroom door slowly opened. Brianna and I both stared at the door and then at each other. I was like, what the? Oh no, it's the fairy! Brianna started in horror. Then she dived into her closet and slammed the door behind her. Unfortunately, it wasn't the fairy. I almost wish it had been. Instead, it was Mom and Dad. And I could tell that they were not happy. But what really weirded me out was that my dad's right eye started twitching. I guess that it was probably because the room reeked of sardines, tuna fish, and vinegar. Okay, I could understand what my parents might have been. Okay, I could understand why my parents might have been a little upset. It was 2 a.m. and we had just totally trashed Brianna's room and sprayed enough repellent to fumigate 2 small, very smelly, fly-infested pig farms. That's when it occurred to me that just maybe I'd taken the whole fairy prank thing a bit too far. To make matters worse, I think the spray was starting to make me feel lightheaded and dizzy, or maybe I was suffering from oxygen deprivation due to breathing through that snorkel for 15 continuous minutes. I thought about hiding the bottle of fairy repellent and the toy tennis racket behind my back and trying to act natural. As natural as I could, considering the fact that I was in my pajamas wearing a blue plastic diving mask with a snorkel. My parents were still just standing there with shocked looks on their faces. Unfortunately, that snorkel thing made my voice and breathing sound just like Darth Vader's, but with a really wicked lisp. Hi, Dad. Hi, Mom. Chee woo. What's up? I'm Willie Berry Thawley. I woke you up. Chee woo. I was just working on my science project and Brianna's room got a bit methy. Chee woo. Luke, I am your father. Chee woo. Luckily for me, Mom and Dad laughed at my joke. Then I explained that I was just testing out a new homemade insect repellent vinaigrette salad dressing. Then I explained that I was just testing out a new homemade insect repellent / vinaigrette salad dressing / air freshener called Sardine Summer Splash, and that it was an extra credit homework assignment for gym class, and extra credit is a good thing. When Brianna came crawling out of the closet, I knew I was dead meat. I was going to be grounded. I was going to be grounded forever if she spilled about my little prank. But she totally backed me up and told Mom and Dad she'd help me make a special spray to get rid of a little pest in her bedroom. Thank goodness she didn't tell them the pest was the tooth fairy. My parents just assumed it was a bug or something and believed the whole story. I just hope Brianna has finally gotten over her fairy phobia. One thing is for sure, it'll be really nice to start sleeping again without having to worry about waking up to find one of my eyeballs lying on my pillow looking at me. Ew! How gross would that be? Sunday, October 27th. It's the wee hours of the morning and I'm so exhausted I can hardly keep my eyes open. Mrs. Hargrove stopped by this evening to drop off the face painting supplies for the ballet class Halloween party next Thursday. She also gave me a garbage bag that contained a super cute costume. She said her niece bought it especially for me to wear to the party and they just knew the kids were going to love it. That's when I started to get this really bad feeling about Mrs. Hargrove's niece. I was like, oh, by the way, I don't think you ever told me your niece's name. Since she goes to WCD, I probably know her. Actually, she's one of your good friends, Mackenzie Hollister. She said you guys have lockers right next to each other, and you came to her birthday party last week. Mackenzie, I gulped. For a split second, I felt like I was going to lose the meatloaf I'd eaten for dinner. Yeah, I guess you could say Mackenzie and I are really good locker neighbors. I vaguely remembered overhearing Mackenzie mention Aunt Clarissa back in September. My head was spinning as I thanked Mrs. Hargrove and trudged upstairs to my room. Why in the world had Mackenzie told her aunt I was the best artist in the school, especially after she had compared my artwork to poodle vomit? And why had she suggested that I paint faces for the ballet class Halloween party? One thing was very clear to me. I smelled a rat, a really big stinky rat. Literally. Inside the garbage bag was the most hideous looking rat costume I had ever seen in my life. And it totally reeked of sweaty armpits, stale pizza, and Lysol disinfectant spray. I almost gagged. I guess that the costume was probably the mascot for some popular restaurant for kids, but it smelled so bad that customers had complained and the manager had thrown it away. Then, after it had been buried in a dumpster full of garbage for weeks, some high school kid found it and sold it on eBay for $3 to fund his iTunes addiction. Mackenzie bought it and then gave it to her aunt to give to me. Sometimes I wonder if I'm the only person at my school who believes Satan's kid. Sometimes I wonder if I'm the only person in my school who believes Satan's kid sister had a locker right next to mine. Anyway, I started feeling really sorry for myself. While most students in our city would be attending their school's Halloween dance, I was going to be stuck at the Westchester Petting Zoo wearing a stank rat costume and entertaining a bunch of bratty little ballerinas. How depressing. I felt like crying just thinking about it. While everyone else was having fun, I'd be having a boo-hoo at the zoo. My life was so pathetic it made me want to. Suddenly the craziest idea popped into my head. I tried really hard to ignore it, hoping it would just crawl back into the deep recesses of my brain or wherever crazy ideas come from. Then I thought, why not? What do I have to lose? I rushed over to my computer, went online, and did a search for local Halloween haunted houses. Lucky for me, the place I was interested in was open on Sundays until 7 p.m. I called and spoke with the manager of the facility and explained my situation. He was in complete agreement with my plan as long as we secured permission from Principal Winston. Since the future of our dance was in limbo, I placed the guy on hold and called Principal Winston's home number, hoping that the three of us could speak together in a conference call. I started by apologizing profusely for disturbing Principal Winston at his home on a Sunday evening, and explained that I had an urgent matter to discuss. However, it took me a while to convince him that I wasn't a prank caller and that the manager of a haunted house really needed to speak with him ASAP regarding a school function. Within 10 minutes, all the details had been hammered out and Principal Winston gave me permission to move forward with my plan. I was ecstatic and started doing my Snoopy happy dance again. La la la, I'm la la la, so la la la, happy. Next, I emailed everyone on the dance committee. Hi everyone, meet me in the library on Monday at 7 a.m. for an emergency meeting and be ready to rock, Nikki. Then I ran downstairs and raided the refrigerator. I'm pulling an all-nighter and need every ounce of energy I can get my hands on to stay awake. Why? Because the WCD Halloween dance is back on with a vengeance, due to the pure genius of one very fierce chairperson, namely me. My new idea for a Halloween dance is totally crazy, but in a really good way. OMG, it's almost 6 a.m. and our meeting OMG, it's almost 6 a.m. and our meeting is in 1 hour. Gotta go shower and eat breakfast. Monday, October 28th. I didn't get any sleep last night, so I'm super exhausted, but I'm also dearly happy. Boo! At the zoo. WCED Middle School Annual Halloween Dance. Thursday, October 31st, 7:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. A most frightening experience at the Westchester Zoo Halloween Haunted House. We've plastered the entire school with our posters and flyers. Homework. Please read page 113. And now everyone is buzzing about the dance, which BTW is being held on the premises of the biggest haunted house in the city, sponsored annually by the Westchester Zoo. I've heard boo at the zoo a million times already, and it's not even the third hour yet. There are so many students wanting to help out that I had to put up another volunteer sign-up sheet and then add a second page. Our meeting this morning went really well and turned into a big brainstorming session. And by the time it was over, 39 people had shown up. Zoe reported that the Westchester Zoo was happy to host our dance at no charge, and setup was going to be from 3 to 6 p.m. on Thursday, October 31st. Chloe reported that the art classes were making an assortment of Halloween decorations for extra credit. Okay, guys, there it is. That was reading Dork Diaries, Tales from a Not-So-Popular Party Girl by Rachel Renee Russell, a #1 New York Times bestselling series, Book 2, Part 2 of 3. In the first part, we read the beginning of the book to page 93, and we just read 94 to 186 and left off at 187. I'm not sure if that was 93 pages, but it's somewhere around there. So next part 3 of 3, next video, we're going to read pages 186 until the end of the book. I hope you went to enjoy as dearly as I did doing that, because it was really fun. I liked it. And I know for my Dot at Olympic videos, I do show the pictures, but not for the Dork Diaries one. Sorry. So, if you went to enjoy, well, hope you enjoyed. And that was reading Dork Diaries, Tales from a Not-So-Popular Party Girl, #1 New York Times bestselling series by Rachel Renee Russell, Part 2 of 3. Subscribe, like, and make sure to turn on post notifications. And I'll see you guys in the next wonderful video. Papa, peace! Alright, guys. Bye-bye.